Hey y'all, welcome back. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bonnethead and I do horror analysis on the internet. Guys, I'm gonna be honest, I'm worried. I'm real worried. So not too long ago, I posted a socio-political analysis of the new movie Obsession. If you haven't seen it, then I recommend you go and check it out. It might give a little bit more context for this video, but do as you please. And the video, to my standard as a smaller channel, kind of blew up and it got a lot of attention. A lot of people were talking about it. A lot of people have been talking about this movie. And although the video did get a lot of love and I'm ridiculously thankful for everybody who has engaged with it, it's been so cool to see. The comment section underneath of it has me concerned, to say the least. Mostly about men. I'm worried about men. Like, really worried about men. In fact, the entire discussion surrounding this movie online has just been kind of worrisome. I'm glad that the discussion has been opened. I think that we need to talk about these things. We need to talk about gender dynamics a whole lot more than we normally do, but in opening that conversation, it's also revealed a lot of the problems that I think this generation struggles with, more than I think we originally may have thought. So, in the spirit of having more than 4 comments on my video and my insatiable desire to analyze social and rhetorical politics, we're gonna have a bit of a different video today. Today, we are going to be going through the plethora of concerning comments left on my Obsession video and the broader discussion surrounding the movie and what makes it all so concerning. And, you know, frankly, pretty terrifying. I'm gonna say it. It's terrifying. In this week's episode of Scary News, welcome to the horrors of my comment section. We're actually going to be splitting these comments up into 2 different sections just to keep things organized and kind of easy to follow. First, we'll go over the comments that are just confidently wrong in what they're saying, and they kind of pertain to the more broader conversation surrounding this movie, while at the same time making me question our society's media literacy skills, and it is very concerning to see. And second, we'll delve into the more incel comments that were left on that video that really made me realize how bad things have gotten in the manosphere, as well as just gender dynamics in our society in general. And even I, as somebody who is constantly researching and looking into rhetorical politics, did not know that it was this bad. So if you stick around, you might be surprised too. So without any further ado, let's get into things. Let's talk about it. Listen, I have not been posting on the internet for very long at all. It's been less than a year at this point, but I am fully aware of how bad people's media literacy skills have gotten. And if we're being honest, it's concerning. I mean, we have to acknowledge that. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about with this first comment here. Shiro642 says, as if it's a sin to be nervous talking to your crush. First of all, literally never said that. I actually said the opposite at the end of my video if you had the attention span long enough to watch it, but since you didn't, I'll reiterate it here again. It is completely normal to be nervous talking to your crush. It's okay to be nervous talking to somebody that you think is attractive. That's normal. What's not normal is internalizing the attraction to that person so much so that you become obsessed with the idea of that person and you're no longer treating them as if they are a human being. That's what you need to keep in mind. That's just another person. You cannot allow your own nerves to dehumanize the people around you. This person goes on to say, I feel like people are reaching for straws just to discredit and talk bad about Gen Z boys. And what I say to that is I really don't think it's reaching for straws to acknowledge real problems that are happening to targeted demographics in our society. If you're trying to say that the internet and social media haven't directly preyed upon young, insecure boys who are afraid to talk to women, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Moving on, OneScott921 says, I feel sorry for you, Gen Z and Alpha. You're victims of a social engineering spelled wrong, stuck in a constant gender war, and movies like this just spread you apart. It's not bringing you closer together. They are made for a specific purpose, and you're happily swallowing the bait. Oh, good lord, who is this guy? Yo, we got Socrates over here in the comments section. Check it out. Listen, hop off your high horse and give me a break. The film's commentary is literally the opposite of what you're trying to say here. And you know, as much as I can hop on the media is trying to divide us bandwagon, I know that that's true. You're just confidently wrong here, dude. The movie is addressing and talking about a very real problem that is caused by the gender divide that we have. Look, I understand the commentary that you're trying to make here, man. I get it, the whole social engineering thing, but the fact that you're trying to say this from some ivory tower, like as if any generation hasn't been a victim of social engineering, it's just an ignorant statement. This next comment's a little bit longer, so I'm only going to be reading some parts of it. Reverse Cowgirl Cat says, "This isn't Gen Z to me. Women of all generations have dealt with this." And you know what? I believe that. But what I don't believe is that every generation has dealt with the intensity of the pigeonholed ideation that the manosphere has created for young men. That feels like a pretty uniquely Gen Z problem to me. They go on to say, "I get so tired of this generation thing. It also makes it harder for young people to take advice from elders because they think it's a unique problem. I'd say Gen X to now can relate for sure, and they could probably give you words of," I think that's supposed to say wisdom. Yo, check it out. We got the Crypt Keeper up in here. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to be too hard on you because I largely do agree with what you're saying. I think every generation struggles to an extent with male and female gender dynamics, and I think all generations now have definitely been impacted by the rise of the internet. But I also really struggle when older generations, I assume you're from an older generation is what it sounds like, just refuse to believe that younger generations are dealing with problems that are different and unique to that generation. Gen Z and Gen Alpha are dealing with problems very unique to these generations. These are not problems that we have ever seen before because the internet and AI are very recent technological developments. So this whole idea of taking advice and words of wisdom from older generations just doesn't make sense to me because older generations haven't had to deal with this. What advice could they possibly have? Especially in an age where everything is changing so rapidly right in front of our eyes. Tanazaki says, "Everyone in Obsession was a stupid, phone-addicted person who could not handle the real world." How old do y'all think this person is? 53? 54? Start placing your bets on it in the comments. Do y'all think this person makes the same jokes to their nieces and nephews every single Thanksgiving about how they couldn't handle the real world back during the Stone Age? I'm sure the world was pretty difficult back when you had to take class notes on a stone tablet. I don't blame you. That sounds hard. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't think that there was more than 30 seconds in that entire movie that these characters were on their phones. But you know, it's okay. I know that it can be hard to see at your ripe old age. Jesus Christ. Next, we have Idol Nochi, 18. Ian advice is the correct one because it works. Don't ask a fish how to catch a fish, okay? Wait, what? How old are you? Hold on a second. Dog, you look about 5 years old. Get up at my comments section, talk about some fishing. Go play outside. We'll end off this section with an honorable mention to B Carver 5589 under my Terrifier video, which says, "Wait, I'm so able to absorb this commentary, but immediately it seems like a straw man. Kill count shows about 90% of the time have far more men tallied as victims." Guys, saying that you're so able to absorb my commentary and not even being able to grasp the basic premise of it is insane, first of all. But second of all, my argument wasn't at all that there were more female kills in the Terrifier franchise. The argument was that the violence shown toward women on screen was far more sexual in nature than any violence shown towards men on screen. Use your listening ears next time, and then you might actually be able to absorb my commentary and use the word strawman correctly. Now it's time for the comments where I get really concerned. If what we just went through wasn't bad enough, things are about to get a whole lot worse. The whole commentary surrounding Obsession I already knew was kind of flying over a lot of men's heads, but the whole discussion surrounding it and the reactions to people's interpretations of the film, oh my god, guys. Starting off strong, we have a long one, so buckle yourselves in. FFBJ4NQ says, "My experience as a Gen Z man is that girls always act half interested toward me. They send mixed signals, in parentheses, seem interested, like staring at me from a distance, but shut me down if I approach." So already we're starting off with anecdotal evidence and you're making this about yourself, but that's okay. I understand that this is a very personal and often very sensitive subject, and I'm not going to be too hard on you because the staring thing that you mentioned makes me think that you're probably probably in middle or high school. If you're older than that, then you have way bigger problems that you need to be worrying about. But even still, just some general advice to you, man. If the signals feel mixed, then the answer is probably no. But even with that in mind, I don't want that to make you afraid of approaching somebody that you're interested in, because the answer still might be yes. And rejection is a completely normal part of life. It's good for you to experience rejection. You need to put yourself out there. It's good for you. He goes on to say, by nature, men don't want to act half-interested, but society has taught men to do that if they want to attract women. And then in his edit, he says, and the way you explain manosphere is the exact thing the feminist and Me Too movement are telling women to do. Men want to be in relationships. Women don't want to. Women were taught to focus on careers. So how come you blame men for focusing on their careers? Stop making this look like men's fault only. Okay, you're definitely in high school. Listen, kid, everybody wants to be in a relationship. Everybody. It's human nature. Straight women want to be with men the same way straight men want to be with women. Because it's ridiculous to say that women don't want to be in relationships. It's laughable even. And if you can't accept that, then hopefully you'll learn when you experience a little bit more of the real world and touch some grass. Become a little bit more grounded in reality. And also, nobody is blaming men for trying to focus on their career. Nobody at all. That's a good thing. You want to be driven. You want to be dedicated. You want to be disciplined. If you listen to what I said in the video, I actually believe that young men are victims of the manosphere, and it makes them hyperfixate on their career rather than having a healthy work-life balance that makes them more social. It keeps relationships flourishing and healthy. Maybe instead of trying to hustle and work, you can take a break and go out and get lunch with your friends or something like that. You can go out to a bar, meet a girl there, talk to people. Nurture those close relationships instead of just being a workhorse. That's how you create and maintain those really important social relationships, not just with friends and family, but more importantly, romantic ones. And lastly, he finishes off with, I think my point is gender equality. Both men and women have equally bad social skills nowadays. And look, kid, if your point is gender equality, sorry to say, you're a feminist. Also, I agree. I said in my video that we all have bad social skills. Whatever. Next comment. Nilo Blade of Ronnie says, honestly, as a gay man, happy Pride, by the way, a couple of things I've taken away from seeing the reactions to this movie. 1, men and women do not understand each other and what each other wants at all. I think I largely agree with this, although I wouldn't put it as cut and dry as you did here. But I do agree that social media and the internet at large has sort of created this divide, and men and women don't really understand what each other wants out of a relationship, largely. Lots of misunderstandings, lots of crossed wires, all that good stuff. Number 2, that as much as a lot of women are supposedly against gender roles, they are only against gender roles forced on them. They have zero issues on them forcing them on men. Whoa, we went from 0 to 100 in no time at all. Where are we even talking about gender roles in this movie? Am I missing something? Look, man, everybody has their preferences for what they want gender roles to look like in their relationship. It's a person-to-person thing. I would say I personally have some semi-traditional views on gender roles. Now, I'm not saying I want to stay at home barefoot and pregnant, but I do think that the man should propose. It's a person-by-person issue, and nobody should be forcing anything on anybody. And if anybody is forcing anything on anybody, that is not just a women problem. If we want to talk about who's been forcing gender roles on people, I don't think you want to have that conversation, pal. Woonclair Laufenbaum Cornelius, 70s, 47, whatever, says, moral of the story, stop simping, stop wishing. Oh boy, man, we're still using the word simping. Fully thought we were past that, but I guess not. TSM Davon 1769 says, lots of men were born to suffer. That's just how it be. Bryson 1995 M6V says, I'm just so tired. I think I should just stop trying with women altogether. I will just be alone for the rest of my life. I don't care anymore. All we get is just more women just hating on men all day long. What's the point anymore? See, this is the stuff that worries me. This self-pitying bullshit that turns men into literal monsters just because they can't get out of their own ass. Look, I'm sorry if this comes across as man-hating, but truthfully, you need to get a grip and touch some grass. Become reacquainted with reality. Nowhere in the video am I hating on men. I am acknowledging a real problem with the gender dynamics in this country of this generation that the movie was touching on specifically. If that's gonna send you spiraling, then something has to change, dude. that's bad. And comments like these really just go to show how much the manosphere encourages pathetic and self-pitying behavior instead of true, authentic, and genuine self-improvement. Bipolarama says it's not just Gen Z that doesn't know how to talk to women. None of us do anymore. You scare us. LOL. That sounds like a you problem, Bubba. Finally, we have Koror, I think, who says, we spent the last 30 years making it almost impossible for men. So what do you expect? This is what women fought for. What was the slogan? The future is female. You got what you wanted. You won. This is just one of the side effects. We live in a world where every woman matters and has inherent value, while the majority of men are considered worthless and have negative value. Do we really expect this dynamic to create healthy people and healthy relationships? Most women automatically hate men. Would you approach people who you knew hate you? Okay. What? First of all, we're getting more of this self-pitying mess that I hate. The whole, oh, poor me, I'm a man and women have it so much easier and boo feminism and woe is me, oh, blah, blah, blah. And listen, I hate even engaging with stuff like this because it's so untethered to reality, but I also know that I have to acknowledge it because it is so common for people to think this way. First of all, nobody has literally made anything impossible for men, just maybe more possible for women. That might be what you're talking about. Second of all, women don't hate men. Men don't hate women. There's just a social divide being wedged between us because of idiotic ideologies and misunderstandings of movements like this, which are politically advantageous for anybody in power because the more we're divided amongst each other, the less we can unite against the top. In the heterosexual population, men and women want to be with each other. Men and women love each other. Men and women want to bang each other. That's how we're wired. We're just running into intentionally engineered divides between us right now. Third of all, you make a very interesting claim here that I think a lot of men are struggling with right now, and I'm going to hyperfixate on it for a second. Bear with me. You claim here specifically that every woman matters and that all men are viewed as being useless. Again, I think it's insanely important that you said that because I think it's an idea that a lot of men have been struggling with for quite some time now. Listen, I theorize that the feminist movement has created a lot of opportunities for women to educate themselves and to start a career for themselves, to make their own money and to be independent citizens, which allows them to not have to rely on a man for financial stability. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. You want everybody, regardless of their demographic, to have the opportunity to be self-sustaining. A healthy economy thrives in that environment. But because our society wasn't that way for the longest time, and we told men, we raised them on this idea that their value is inherent to what they can provide, financially speaking, they don't know what to do with themselves when they no longer have that to offer. Because now that women no longer need a man in order to survive and thrive on their own, men need to figure out what else they can bring to the table in a relationship. Women for the longest time have been raised to be pretty, to be funny, to be caring, to be kind, to be motherly, to do all of these things all at once, whereas men for the longest time, that was not necessarily a concern. For women, if you wanted to land a man, you had to put in the effort. Whereas if you wanted to be with a woman as a man, you still had to put in effort. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that none of those other things mattered, but the main draw was that women had to be with you. You were the one that was providing. You're the only means of survival for a woman. So as a man, if all you have to offer is your money and women no longer need your money, then what do you have? What are you left with? That's why the idea of self-improvement, and I mean true self-improvement, meaning emotional reflection and staying healthy, not the steroids and bone smashing bullshit, is so intimidating to men now because that's just not how we raise our young men at large, but it is how we raise our young women. And I think that's somewhat what they're trying to do, but not really, because in trying to do that, they sort of reverted back to the old traditional way of being a man. It's like, okay, you want to put effort into your appearance and work out, but you have to stay in the gym for 3 hours a day. You want to have a job and have a stable income, but women only want your money, so you have to work hard and work harder. You have to be a millionaire before any woman would want you, which is like just not the case, because if women aren't seeking your money anymore because they can make their own money, then they're looking for something else, clearly. And this is completely anecdotal. I don't have any statistics to back this up, but from my understanding and from what I understand about what women want nowadays, from having talked to many of them and having been around them and having been one, What women want is that personality aspect. They want that emotional support. They want somebody that's kind and caring and funny. They want somebody that they can relate to. And I think men largely want the same thing. I just think that there's a difficulty in getting it, all because they're being confused with this asinine manosphere ideology that basically just socially engineers them into being whatever Big Brother wants them to be. Workhorses, right? Right-wing workhorses. So, final thoughts, right? Listen, I don't want to make it seem like all of the comments under that video were like the ones you've seen here. There were actually lots of insightful comments that expanded upon my commentary or politely disagreed with my take, and I'll always welcome that. I thought that was really cool, and I was just so excited by it. But enough of my comments were like this for me to start feeling worried about how men were reacting to the Obsession movie and the discourse surrounding it. I think that men are in a very interesting and difficult place right now. Men of all generations, not just specifically Gen Z. Although the manosphere content is largely targeted at Gen Z and Gen Alpha men, I know that it has affected all men. But I also think that everybody at large, not just men, have become more antisocial with the rise of social media. Again, although it is targeted at younger people. But I specifically focus on Gen Z and primarily Gen Z men in my discussion surrounding this topic and in my Obsession video because I truly believe that's what the film is depicting really well. It would be ignorant to say that Gen Z men haven't been struggling socially in a unique way to other generations and in a different way to Gen Z women. That's not to say that Gen Z women are perfect or that there aren't problematic subsectors of feminism. I mean, you can find problematic groups of people in any ideology, but I think young men are especially being targeted because they're lost. Young men still aren't used to the position that they've been put in socially, where they need to offer something in a relationship that isn't just money. But they still cling to those ideas, not only because right-wing propaganda is telling them to, but also because although modern dynamics have changed, the way we raise our sons really hasn't. We raise our girls to bring everything to the table, especially looks, and many of our boys still have been raised to provide and haven't necessarily caught up fully to the idea that they need to provide just as much as a girl would. It's why we often see young men cling to a time where they felt like they were the ones that had all of the power. They were the ones that had their choice, their pick of any women. Things were easier for them because they had all the resources. It's why you get that whole talk of we need to return to tradition. We need to have a better society where men were the ones that had the power. It puts many of them in a very difficult spot that they don't necessarily know how to navigate without getting defensive and delving into this idea of being an alpha male provider. But at the end of the day, the idea is silly and it's damaging. I guess what I'm trying to say is on both fronts, both Gen Z men and women, it's those damn phones. Anyway, this episode's horror highlight. Today's horror highlight I'm really excited to show y'all is Melvin's Macabre by Hunter Hancock, aka Meat Canyon, aka Papa Meat. You know him, you love him. If you're unfamiliar with his work and somehow familiar with mine, Meat Canyon does a lot of satirical body horror type animations, and he has a series called Melvin's Macabre, which follows the main character Melvin. There's quite a few episodes of it out now, but he ended up making it into a manga. 4 of the episodes of Melvin's Macabre are in this book as a manga, and the art is incredible. It's so cool. I absolutely love having a physical copy of this book. If you're into horror, if you're into art, if you're into animation, if you're into horror movies, I mean, this covers a whole lot of bases. And I mean, if that cover art isn't enough for you, I don't know what would be. But yes, make sure you head on over to meatcanyon.store if you want to pick up a copy of this. Obviously not sponsored. I don't think he's ever sponsored anybody. Make sure you pick it up. It's worth a read. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today's video. I know it was a little bit different, but it felt important, and if something feels important to me, I'm going to talk about it. But if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like or maybe even subscribing if you want to see more content like this. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Anyways, see y'all. Bye!